guys, it's Jack here, and thanks for watching this newest episode of the Big Jack Films Reviews, and as always, a few special thanks are in order. First of all, a big thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. If you guys want to go support the channel, just $1 or more will get you early access to all of our content, as well as other special features. Also, on Patreon, please forgive me for not posting much on there, let alone making enough videos, because we are working hard on a ton of big, giant productions, and on top of that, I'm still dealing with a bit of a cough. Don't worry, COVID hasn't got me yet. But I also want to give a few thank yous to a few content creators who helped out with this episode. The first major thank you goes to REDLIN Ranger. He's actually got over 1,000 subscribers on his channel, and he's got a review series that actually ties into our show, much like IndiFan. So if you guys want to go check him out, subscribe to his YouTube channel. And I want to give a major thank you and an introduction to a new content creator known as Hinachi Idol. And if you guys want to go support her, her main following is on Twitch. She does streamings a few days a week, and she's also got a YouTube channel, Twitter, and so on. So follow her on all the platforms. So a very special thanks to her, REDLIN Ranger, and everybody on Patreon who keeps this show going. So be sure to like this video and subscribe, and enjoy the show. The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. InuYasha Movie 3 Swords of an Honorable Ruler is owned by Sunrise Entertainment, Viz Media, Ocean Studios, Toho Studios, and Rumiko Takahashi. Please support the official release and streaming services.
Hey.
The priestess and lord hired has probably since returned to the ship.
So, pupil has surpassed the teacher.
Your captain, the person in question.
The British captain like to mention as requested.
The enemy has returned?
That is correct, Captain. If another attack is to come, we need to be ready for anything. Right to the east. There's a priestess there. You should meet her. She was once the protector of a long-destroyed relic. The presence of my heart is where her true protection will follow you.
Who dares awaken me from the dead? You are weary of the way we faced on the Great Floor 15 years ago.
The boy had my curiosity at the time of the war. Now, he has my full attention.
I swear to the last beat of my heart, I will not let our worlds fall. But when it's done, I shall return to you. Since obtaining my true power from the battle with Cell, something is missing. A presence I haven't felt since... Do you still wander the world? Priestess of the dead. What's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review. And once again, it's time to take a look at another installment of the InuYasha series. Having covered 5 seasons since 2020 as a pastime, And for a fan film that may fuse more into my show, the InuYasha anime is my all-time favorite anime and television series, hands down, bar none, and I can never get enough of it. But the question is, this time around, covering the first 2 films in Season 5 with the Band of 7, what could be next for our heroes in the feudal era, and what villains and adventures would they come across next? Well, let's jump into the next storyline of the series with the 3rd film in the franchise, and one of the best, with 2003's InuYasha Movie 3, Swords of an Honorable Ruler. As the 3rd film takes place in the gap of Season 5 and Season 6, we open with, surprisingly, a full-fledged flashback to the night of InuYasha is birthed by his mother, the fair lady Izayoi, voiced by Elania Burnett, and guarded by the barbaric samurai lord Takimaru of Satsuna. No relation. Huh, I guess Sesshomaru has good taste in naming his kids as a jab to his own father. Voiced by Jonathan Holmes, who attempts to kill the child when discovering the father's identity. That, of course, being the great dog demon Toga, voiced by Don Brown, who engages with Takimaru in a duel to the literal death, as Izayoi and the newborn half-demon InuYasha escape the burning castle. We then cut to the current time frame of our heroes after the defeat of the Band of 7 and the fall of Mount Hakure, as InuYasha and his friends continue their search for the escaped Naraku and their remaining Shikon jewel shards, which, yes, by the way, once again, the entire original cast of the series returns for the 3rd installment, but back in Kagome's timeline of the present, her family dusts off a family heirloom with the rusted 700-year-old sword that is possessed by a spiritual sheath known as Saya, voiced by Michael Dobson. However, the sword is unsheathed and is revealed to be the Sword of Hell known as Saunga, a surprising 3rd blade once wielded by InuYasha and Sesshomaru's father, whom passed his 2 powerful fangs, the Tatsaiga and the Tenseiga, to the 2 brothers after his death. But both brothers instinctively duel for the sword, with InuYasha wishing to see it destroyed while Sesshomaru seeks to wield it to rival his brother's more powerful blade Tatsaiga. But with the siblings in a combative rivalry, Saunga's power seems to be too powerful for either of them to possess, and takes on an identity of its own, voiced by Ward Perry, and summons a massive army of the dead and uses the corpse and vengeful soul of Takimaru as his host to destroy the 2 brothers and bring about hell itself on Earth. So, while all 4 films are all decent flicks, and despite my distaste of the previous movie, Castle Beyond the Looking Glass, as fanservice filler, Movie 3, Swords of an Honorable Ruler, I can say not only improves the previous film, but it surpasses all of them, both prior and after, and is easily the best film of the 4 movies. The reason is pretty simple. It not only fills in the blanks the show left regarding the rivalry of the 2 brothers and the mystery of their father, but it also has some of the best world building for the franchise, not just in the backstory, but the feudal era as a whole, with its setup of the living and the dead. There is so much rich history in this film's story that's really engaging and is a perfect example of how to make a movie that is canonical to a long-running series by answering many questions that the show may not have time for. On top of that, it's one of the darkest entries of the series for its massive amount of violence and gore, making it not only brutal, but more personal for its long run of characters. While the last 2 films mostly focused on the relationship with InuYasha and Kagome, this film gives much needed attention to the relationship of the 2 brothers, InuYasha and Sesshomaru. Leading the charge and their tense rivalry really comes to a head in this movie, not only bringing out their full powers and abilities at this point of the series to test on each other, but their utter grudges and hatred for one another for both-sided reasons. InuYasha's comes from a sense of abandonment, not just from the death of his parents, but the rejection of his brother as a bastard son to their father, which was a heavy point to the characters of the series going all the way back to the first season. While he butts heads with Sesshomaru constantly, deep down it shows all InuYasha wants is closure for his family, and to maybe, in some subtle way, make some kind of peace with his brother. It's a part of the character that most of the time in the series doesn't flesh out as much given his other goals and desires with the recent death of Kikyo and his revenge on Naraku. So it's nice to see this arc become more of the focus, and in a way begins a union of the 2 brothers later on in the series. For Sesshomaru, however, there's a lot to pack here, given I haven't talked about him much here in the movies. And you can't really blame me for skipping out. The first 2 films didn't really give him much to do, honestly. Hell, the last one, he's renegaded as a one-shot cameo from the beginning. That's it! Not even a line of fucking dialogue! What, was David K too expensive that day to record?
All right. I've had enough. Who keeps leaving the dirty socks in the sink? Who the hell stole my rubber ducky? it Waspinator?
No, it wasn't Waspinator.
Who was it then?
It was probably Jockin. Jockin? Trays, are you in there? I'm busy with Lady Una.
Session Bang will be right back on BJF. But anyway, it's nice to see creator Rumiko Takahashi and the production finally give him a massive role in the third film, and we discover much more of the character's goals here. Despite much like his brother, his obsession with hunting down Naraku, truthfully, Sesshomaru wishes to become a far greater power than his father ever could. He seeks supreme conquest to become essentially Lord and Emperor of the land, but feels he can only do so by inheriting the power of all three of his father's blades, the latter being Tetsaiga. So it explains why his hatred for his brother is so strong. Their father entrusted his most powerful weapon to what Sesshomaru considered a bastard offspring of the family bloodline, which till then was pure and showed the might of their legacy. On top of that, what he considered poor inheritance, he blames InuYasha for the death of their father, given he sacrificed his life to defend InuYasha's human mother. But while Sesshomaru sees humans as inferior beings that should bow to them as gods, he softens to their nature while caring for the orphan girl Rin, voiced by Brendan O'Brien, which started at the tail end of season 2. Both brothers really have a score to settle on many fronts, and the movie really brings out that energy, making it not only an awesome spectacle of power and combat, but a deep-rooted emotional story that in of itself is tragic and saddening due to the hatred both have for one another. You really want to see them work it out and try to, in some vein, be a family and give their respective father a sense of peace. But while both brothers are the mainstay, the rest of our heroes have their moments but are mostly pushed to the side as fodder and support. This is the only movie where honestly Kagome isn't given much to do other than being the backup and support for InuYasha to keep us cool and work things out with Sesshomaru. Given it's not really her centered focused story this time around, she does what she can when it's needed, mostly acting as trial parenting for Rin when both are put in the path of the battles they face. Something you could say evokes Kagome's full-time parenting later on with their daughter Moroha and Yashahime. And while we're on her end, Rin is also kind of fodder, acting as not just a you-can-do-it character for Sesshomaru,
You can do it, Master Jockey!
but unfortunately acts as a Lois Lane or Mary Jane for Sesshomaru to constantly save. And yeah, that is something that is also carried on from the series, but still, she holds her own in this film. But one of the best supporting characters in the movie on Team Sesh is Jockin, a character that I really love on the show, not just for the comedy, but the design. He acts as a Mr. Smee mixed with Yoda or Kermit the Frog. In fact, if done right in a live-action adaptation, I always saw Jockin as being created using the award-winning creature effects by Jim Henson's workshop.
That was like a real leap, because if that puppet had not worked, the whole film would have been down the tubes. It just, it would have been a disaster if it had been a silly little Muppet, if it had been Kermit running around in that movie. The whole movie would have collapsed under the weight of it.
They could conquer Lord Sesshomaru. Get out of here!
But in this movie, like the show and the first film, he has some great comedic moments, especially in the final battle.
I'll show them the power of the Staff of Two Hands!
Master Jockin, you're shaking with fear.
No, I'm not. I'm trembling with excitement.
The rest of the cast, while there and have their moments, don't really have much to do in the story and only feel like they're there as an obligation, especially for the rest of the main fellowship, with Shippo being the most useless, acting as padded comedy to keep the runtime to an hour and a half.
Jeez, he's pretty darn touchy, whoever he is.
But for Sango and Moroku, they have their moments or two and act as cover fire for the heroes to give them more chances to get out of sticky situations. Moroku, I'll admit, had the best moment, both in using his wind tunnel to finish off the undead army, despite it might kill him through the zombified toxins, and confessions to Sango that he will defend the woman he loves. And once again, the late Kirby Muro nails it out of the park.
Please don't do it.
I must, Sango. What's the point of living with this cursed hand if I can't at least use it to protect the woman I love?
Moroku.
Hey, it's a much more impactful moment than the scene in movie 2. Yeah, I said it, I'll say it again. Lick my tit sagas, folks. But surprisingly, one of the better set of characters are the three guardians of the Brothered Swords. Myoga, who was a mainstay character in movie 1 and given a cameo in movie 2, actually is given a bit more to do here than in the previous films, and allowing to be a bit more of an exposition to the audience in catching up on the story. Plus, there's also Todosai, who I can finally talk talk about in depth for a bit. Toho-sai, voiced by Rhinox actor Richard Newman, is the blacksmith who forged Tetsaiga and Tenseiga for the Great Dog Demon and acts as an almost comedic guiding uncle to the two brothers, giving them guidance in the power of the swords. But he does manage to hold his own in battle using his welding hammer and the ability to blow fire to burn his enemies.
Don't be ridiculous. He's already upset with us as it is.
But one of the newest additions to the Three Guardians is the spirited sheath of Soonga, Saya, who is the final piece of the puzzle regarding the backstory of the father. While only being in the third film, he actually does act as a decent character in helping our heroes free the curse of Soonga, which lingered for hundreds of years. Good stuff.
I've hung in there for 1,000 years. I'm exhausted.
I thought you said it was 200 years.
But with the heroes throughout the film, it's also nice to see the villains be smaller compared to the previous films. Takimaru is a fantastic entry to the rogues gallery in the series. He's not a demon or a monster, he's just human, something the series doesn't really focus on much in terms of villains. Yeah, sure, there was the undead, revived human characters with the Band of Seven, who were villains to some extent, corrupted by their dark sides, including the previous series' main villain, Bankotsu. But Takimaru is the first human villain who stays a hateful villain, and his rise to the dark side isn't as sympathetic and corrupted as previous human tragedies in the series. All he wanted was the lust for Izayoi and hates the brothers, becoming a destroyer of humanity, all based on rejection and entitlement. So he's basically an incel.
The woman abandoned me. She betrayed me to give birth to you, a miserable half-breed.
Damn you to hell!
It's pitiful, pathetic, and it's reasonable to see this guy get his ass handed to him. He attempts a murder and abortion of a mother and her child, tries to burn them alive, disposes of his soldiers responsible for the death of the Great Dog Demon, attempts genocide, plans to kill and torture Kagome and Rin to break the two brothers' spirits, and takes pride in killing Izayoi to taunt InuYasha.
Listen well, InuYasha. If you haven't figured it out yet, I am the man who sent your wretched mother to hell.
And honestly, Kagome said it best.
This guy's nuts. He's totally insane.
He's your classic human villain with a ton of demented mental problems, and that's not helped being possessed by the demon sword Soonga, coming off on par with the character of Carnage in the Spider-Man franchise, a psychotic human being possessed by an evil entity. Not a good combo. And with Soonga, he's easily the film series' best villain hands down, being forged and possessive as one of the most powerful evil demons in the feudal era. And considering being a sword of hell, it's probably a given this demon is a servant of the devil himself at this point. While acting as a possessive entity on par with The Thing or Jason in the 9th Friday the 13th movie, he eventually absorbs enough power to become a physical form and battles the two brothers in the final showdown. And his chilling voice by Ward Perry shows the power this demon possesses, and it's downright terrifying and chilling.
Just imagine how InuYasha would react if you killed that girl.
A damn shame that sword was ultimately destroyed. I think Gabler would have had a field day and be a storm to be reckoned with. Oh, speaking of stormy fields, it's coming! Shut it, Dusty. We can't forget about Soonga's signature attack with the deadly fury of the Dragon Twister.
Dragon Twister!
God damn, that thing is a force to be reckoned with, let alone a kick-ass attack name.
Dragon Twister!
The combination of a tornado and a dragon, what's not to be awed by? Oh. I said awe. A-W-E. That's better. This gives the movie the most tension and engagement that any of the films have had with its story, and it really fills in the blanks that the show's audience had many questions about. This is easily the most violent of the films, and some of the graphic arts of murder and gore actually is a tad hard to watch, especially when InuYasha takes possession of Soonga. And you hope to God this guy gets less disarmed as his brother. But the story is enough to keep you engaged and to see the full backstory of the Great Dog Demon. Don Brown gives the father a wise and powerful godlike voice, acting on par with Sean Bean or James Earl Jones.
InuYasha. What is that? The child shall be called InuYasha. Now go!
It makes the brothers seem less like siblings of an inherited power and gives them a sense of royalty. In reality, they're both technically princes of their clan and gives them much more leadership as characters. I should also mention in terms of the back history that there is a lot of play of the universe dealing with heaven, hell, and earth, with all three swords representing those three worlds. It's actually kind of a nice little addition to world building in regards of the living and the dead and how the universe functions in this show. So kudos to the writers on that one. The action scenes, again while violent, are the best of the films, filled with engaging duels, impactful sword fights, and an epic battle for the ages, with Takimaru unleashing an army of the Walking Dead with 2,000 zombified samurai warriors ready to take on our heroes and conquer the world. And while the previous battles in the series and the last two films are entertaining, personally, I felt the battle at Takimaru's castle is the best of the entire franchise, mostly because of its grand epic scale. In previous battles, it's cool to see all the heroes individually take on as many demons, even if they were lower in numbers, but this is the first time we get not just a battle, but a full-scale war on par with the grand epics of the Lord of the Rings. And seeing all of our characters unite as one banner against the forces of evil is always awesome to see. Though I do want to save most of my thoughts for the third act of this review, because the main focus of the film, and the most important conflict for the fans with this installment, is the sibling rivalry of InuYasha and Sesshomaru, with 3 awesome fights between the two. The first battle being after Sounga consumes InuYasha's arm and Sesshomaru's attempts to cut his brother's arm off and take both swords in the process. The fight is exquisitely interesting, with all that's at play, that while InuYasha could use his brother's help, he also doesn't want his arm gone, and both of their rages get the better of them, with Kagome stepping in and stopping the two with one of the most powerful sit commands of the series, effectively destroying the beats of subjugation. Which, by the end of the film in a post-credits scene, is kind of retconned and honestly could have been without.
Sit, boy.
It actually would have made the series much more engaging if he didn't have those beats, but give them credit, that's one of the most iconic running gags in the entire show.
Sit, boy!
And I'm not kidding when I say that some fans actually counted that there were a total of 154 sit commands in the entire series. I don't know if that counts Yashahime, but damn, that's a long-running gag to sit on. Yes, that pun was intentional.
Like, that makes me feel better.
Their second fight is much more traditional, with both their most powerful weapons, with InuYasha's Tetsaiga and Sesshomaru's counter-weapon Tokijin, forged from a demon of Naraku known as Goshinki from Season 2. The fight is fast, energetic, and well choreographed in the animation, not to mention the framing of the shots and editing being absolutely brilliant in this fight. There are words to be had about their father and powers finally coming to head with the Tetsaiga's Windscar and Backlash Wave versus Tokijin's Dragon Strike, with amazing flashing spectacles and some of the best sound mixing of the series.
Dragon Strike! What? What happened to my Backlash Wave?
Their third fight is more of a three-way and eventual union against Sounga in the third act. While Sesshomaru takes on Takimaru in a pretty impressive sword fight, InuYasha steps in and the two brothers keep hopping over the other to claim self-victory, creating a great sense of suspense that you want to see these two finally unite and take on a threat more powerful and deadly than either. And eventually, both brothers learn from one another in strength and weaknesses, especially with one of InuYasha's most powerful speeches of the entire franchise, and major credit has to go to both the Japanese and English cast, especially Richard Ian Cox and David Kaye for me.
Humans are more arrogant and greedy than any other living creature, and I'm part human too, which is why I refuse to give up. I have what it takes to destroy you, all thanks to my human mother!
Epic as fuck, man. Karawada is back again for the third film of the series, and continues expanding and upgrading the epic score to the franchise, and this time around adds a bit more combative force in the percussions and choir, which in a way, unlike other entries he's produced, kinda stands on its own. Yes, plenty of the iconic themes return, but in this movie, he adds some new themes for not just new characters, but for old ones as well. The music used in the duels with the two brothers, for example, add much more arena combat in the style you'd hear in and scores like Tandan and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is really appropriate for the tone of this movie. It also carries forward into the entire film's aesthetics. It's clear that Wada was probably told early on that this was a war movie, and not just that, but the score sounds inspired from the many epic samurai films of Akira Kurosawa, and could probably fit into games like Ghost of Tsushima in comparison. But one of the most haunting new themes is for the Sword of Hell, Sounga, which goes straight into the tone of a graphic horror film like Jerry Goldsmith's work on The Omen, and it is horrifying even on its own. Now, I'll admit one of the flaws I'll put out early is that the ending song that you see in most of these films is probably the weakest of the four. With the song Four Seasons by Nami Amuro, it's okay for the most part, but it's easily forgettable. Which is a shame given Nami Amuro wrote one of my favorite closing tracks to the show, Come. And given the beat of the song and the title of the track itself, it does kind of play to more of the central parts of the series. But still, it's a great track. But less can be said about the song at the end of the third film. The score, like the previous two, were released in Japan on CD and on the 4-pack wooden box set on DVD, but nowadays is starting to fetch heavy prices online. With such an epic scale of storytelling, the film's budget increased to $3.5 million, making it the most expensive film of the series, and managed to bank in $6.6 million at the box office in Japan when it was released on December 20th, 2003. However, it made less than the previous two entries, and that's probably down to being not just another sequel, which can sometimes do less, but also due to the world, including Japan, flocking to the hype of the final entry of the Lord of the Rings trilogy with The Return of the King, which came out 3 days before the release of Swords of an Honorable Ruler and dominated the Christmas and winter season box office for months, taking all the film awards that year, and unfortunately other fantasy films were overshadowed at the same time, including the underrated adaptation of and Hook prequel Peter Pan.
I have no business with you!
Despite the challenges placed on its release, it still managed to recoup its cost to continue the franchise in both series and the final film, which I will cover in the future. Now, while this film is the best of the series, I do have some nitpicks and a lot of problems with it, mostly on its home video release. And unlike the last two films, unfortunately the home video releases also kind of suffered. While getting the third film for Christmas back in 2006, it came with my beloved portable DVD player, which back in the day was an impressionable piece of tech to have on school rides. If you had one of these, you were the man. Remember, this was before the advancements of mobile phones and online access with touchscreens and even YouTube, so this was a huge deal at the time. Anime and portable DVD players on bus rides to school, nothing beat that back in the day. But back to the movie. The DVD unfortunately lacks in terms of bonus features. While the original trailers are presented, the lack of a documentary like the last two kinda sucks. And I can't remember if this DVD had the trailer for the next installment, but I'll admit the teaser for the third film is probably one of the best. Not even using any footage from the film, but was probably released during the theatrical run of Castle Beyond the Looking Glass to get people excited for the next film. Something that Japan normally likes to do with movie series, including the Godzilla films. They always put out a trailer for the next installment a year before it's even made, which is something they don't really do anymore. And in terms of non-documentary material, what we get in its place is a compilation of the previous fights between the two brothers in the series up to the point of the third movie. They aren't even dubbed, just the original Japanese audio with locked subtitles. This is the kind of piece you'd see in a compilation video on YouTube, not a high-quality bonus feature on a DVD for the time. It's clear by this point the hype for the series was beginning to take leave, and that would definitely come to play come the upcoming last two seasons and film 4. Perhaps if this was the last movie, it would have made a decent trilogy and ended the movies on a high note.
What's the matter? Can't you even kill a corpse?
Now, I have have no faults with the film itself personally, but I will admit I have a nitpick or two when it comes to its overall impact in its story and the future of the series. Now again, the third act is what makes the movie for me as a grand scale epic on par with high quality fantasy works of the 2000s, with all the characters working together, especially in the way certain characters come into play and start working off each other, especially this scene.
We couldn't wait any longer, so here we are!
I didn't ask for any help!
Hey, don't be so proud!
You stay out of this! This is none of your business!
You're right. This isn't our business. Still, friends stick together, InuYasha.
I think even InuYasha's face sums up that was kind of cringy, but awesome.
Fine. It's your life.
This, in comparison, is pretty much the Avengers Endgame battle of the franchise. With the exception of a few characters, both good and evil, that never seem to sense this threat. Yeah, while I've complained about Koga being in none of the movies and the shoved-in cameo of Sesshomaru in film 2, at least in that one they established the effect of Naraku presumably dead felt throughout the land. But therein lies my problem. Naraku should have been more prominent in this film more so than film 2. Why is that? Well, with an evil entity as deadly and powerful as Sawunga, you'd think with his rival's pursuit of the sword that Naraku would take advantage of this in an attempt to claim the sword as a tool against his most powerful opponents. I understand him taking leave at the season 5 finale after the destruction of Mount Hakure, but come on, man! Here's a better chance at matching your enemies with the weapon on par with your evil! But then you have to ask, if Naraku was around, what's to stop Kikyo from attempting to stop him given she's not in the movie either? Well, spoilers for the season 5 finale, but... yeah, she's, let's say, mostly dead by this point.
There's a big difference between mostly dead and all dead.
You could say he was too injured by Sesshomaru and InuYasha prior, but he took 2 seasons to rebuild his body to become a more powerful entity, and you're telling me that was enough damage to tap him out of an entire movie? I don't think so! And the opportunity to see both enemies of 2 generations of the Dog Demon clan unite against them would have been an amazing threat to this universe!
You two can be such idiots sometimes!
There's no way a villain as intelligent as him could possibly pass up another powerful opportunity like that in the future, and...
Yo, hello, is anyone there? Jack? Is that you?
Who the hell are you?
It's me, REDLIN Ranger, one of your fans. We sort of met at G-Fest back in 2018?
Wait, you're REDLIN Ranger? Not gonna lie, I was expecting a legit Power Ranger given the name.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Anyways, I've been trying to reach out to you for quite a while, and I got something really important to tell you.
Look, if it's about a collab, I'm a tad bit busy at the moment. Also, why do you look like you're stuck in the Great Escape game?
Funny if you ask. That's not the point. The reason why I'm asking this question to you is because Gabler has literally hired this new employee, the warden, on my ass to attempt to literally wrongfully imprison me.
What? Gabler? Are you serious?
Yes. That's why I called you. We got some stuff that Gabler left him a few interesting files. He sends out intels to all the allies and enemies to his cause. One of which is this guy.
Naraku? That's impossible! He died eons ago!
Yeah, he probably got on a paywall. Then again, the guy's probably compensating for all the other villains he has, like with Vader and Cell.
Those two would make a pretty lethal combination.
That's not the only thing Gabler has on his radar. We found relay messages that Naraku will not be within the battalion of his army, but rather the outside taking other worlds. He probably has him on the same job as the Warden.
Any intel on where Naraku was sent?
Not too aware, Jack, but who? I think he might be seeking out someone you know personally.
Oh my god. I think you might be right. I'll sort this out myself.
Sure you don't need any help? I can send you 12,000 battalions and assistance from Spartan Silver Team, thanks to the friends with the UNSC.
Not at the moment. Perhaps there is something. I have contacts with the Cosmic Era. I need you to send sealed information to Captain Romneus of the Archangel. I can contact very few outside of my zones, but we can use her help down the line.
Fair enough, Jack. My AI system has a faster reach than yours. I won't let you down.
Thank you, my friend. I'll report back to you when I can.
Roger that.
This is not good. I should warn her. But let's finish the review. Now, despite that little fan-fiction-y nitpick I have due to tighter continuity, I will admit the climax of the film is enough of an epic rush of adrenaline and emotion to make up for those nitpicks, because this is where, at this time in the series, the two brothers have some form of respect for one another when they unite against Sounga. The final duel is powerful, loud, bombastic, and phenomenal. It allows InuYasha a bit of less aggression despite his hatred of Takimaru, bragging about the death of his mother, and is actually lean to trust his brother and work off their plan of action and abilities. But really, I'd say the victory goes to Sesshomaru, because here he's finally learning something that allows him more power that he longs for and craves. From the very first scene of the film and flashbacks with their father, he simply states his goal of supreme conquest of the world out of a sense of royal entitlement. But much like the character of, say, Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z, for the first time Sesshomaru was fighting for something other than himself, reflecting on the last words spoken to him by his father.
Tell me, Sesshomaru, have you someone to protect?
That energy to protect what's left of his bloodline and his companions with Jaqen and Rin allow him to actually unleash the full power of the brother's sword of heaven, Tenseiga. His goal to claim his brother's sword Tenseiga was not just entitlement, but also to be rid of himself of a sword that could never kill, only revive. Which even in a duel, Takimaru showcases while it can't kill the living, it can kill the dead. But because of the powers of hell from Sounga, it can't fight on its own. By combining the powers of their father, it allows Tenseiga to finally master itself into an actual weapon, which later on would morph into his own combative blade, the Bakusaiga, come the final act. And from the combined strength of the two brothers, editing, sound, and classic music by Karo Wanda, it leaves you satisfied with an epic, flashy finale.
We did it!
But not leaving on a typical note, the ending has an extra twist to satisfy the fans as we see Toga's return in a godlike spiritual moment to speak with his sons. While kind of blurred out to give his physical form a mystery for the fans, it's nice to see the two reconcile with their lost father, especially InuYasha, who never even knew or saw his father and for a brief moment does leave you with a minor set of feels.
You have ensured that Sounga will be sealed forever in the Netherworld. I have nothing more to teach you.
Father, wait!
Wait a minute. I've seen this scenario before.
You have ensured that Sounga will be sealed forever in the Netherworld. I have nothing more to teach you.
Father, wait!
Ugh, I'll let this ripoff pass for now, given it works so well. But regardless though, InuYasha, Swords of an Honorable Ruler, is a pretty epic-ass movie. With enough deep, satisfying storytelling, outstanding action sequences, incredibly high-budgeted animation, and a dark but massive scaled score, Swords of an Honorable Ruler is my favorite of the InuYasha movies. I still love Movie 1 for its simple but expansive world building, but at this point, Movie 3 is where they finally narrowed down what the movie's best represented that the series can't do or don't have time for. There's a lot at stake at this one, and you feel a sense of character development for everyone involved in the plot. While I wish more from the show was added to deepen the tension, it's just a nitpick for me that doesn't affect the film at the slightest. With all swords crossed on this one, I'm gonna forge Movie 3 at a damn good 10 out of 10. It's an informative entry of the series and a full-scale epic that matched its box office rival. So, do yourself a favor and definitely give this one a watch. A perfected blade to draw and shine bright on the big screen. So thanks for watching my review of InuYasha Movie 3, Swords of an Honorable Ruler, and eventually I'm going to wrap up the film series by taking a look at Film 4. But tune in down the line as we continue the series with the InuYasha vlogs covering Season 6. And let me know your thoughts on Film 3 in the comments section below. Do you think it's the best of the series, or do you think other installments did a little better? So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms, signing off for now.
Yeah, Jack, things are being put into place. The SS Patriot Guard and IndiFan are well aware and prepared.
Good. I'll be back soon. There's one last thing I need to take care of.
Where to?
I'm gonna keep that disclosed for now. I've got a promise to make.
Eldorian. You came back.
I gave you my word. Forgive me for taking so long.
It's been almost 20 years since we last crossed paths.
Yes, not since the war, and longer beyond that. I still remember it well. Long before you came into possession of the sacred jewel, what would come to pass. You were always my greatest pupil.
I was more than that once. You've been through a lot. I can tell.
You were always there to pull me back.
It was wise to send Amalthea to me. You've come at the right time. I've sensed the presence of the late. A demonic aura I have not felt since.
Naraku. Yes. I felt his presence here too. He's hunting you. It seems the Dark One has been busy within the multiverse. Naraku has joined his alliance. We're gonna need to bring everyone in.
I'll inform Kagome of this matter. They've been rather quiet with their child as of late.
Not too sure if they would be strong enough fighting alongside us. You'd do better helping protect this world. Take this, guard this well. It'll bring you to me when the time comes. You are stronger and wiser than I am, Kikyo. I have taught you everything I know, and you have become a far greater spiritual warrior than I could ever hope to be. But I need you to be patient a bit more. It will not be long before we can be together once more. Our next meeting is closer than you think.